cutting edge of anomaly research. You are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X 3D, Burnett.
Well, hello, and welcome back to The Evidence. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X 3D. Today's question is, what do you see? You know, a wise man I know, Will Ferrar, over at What's Up in the Sky. You need to check out his channel, by the way. He has a saying, I see what I see, and you see what you see. Each of us is at the center of our own individual perceptual universe, a sphere, as it were, of conscious awareness. And many people find it difficult to divorce themselves from that center altogether and take a more objective view. And I understand that. I'm subject to it just like anybody else. I'm not over, above, sideways anybody else. I'm just a human. But, you know, if you're making proclamations that you see a snake goddess with long black hair, or you're seeing a wagon or a car or something like that, hey, I get it. I get it. You see something that reminds you of that, but you actually don't know. And absent ironclad evidence to support your claim, crystal clear images that are beyond a shadow of a doubt, well, you're just speculating. And yet people fiercely they depend on it, but they defend their misperceptions and say, no, this is what it is. It's not anything else because I say so. Well, on this channel, which by the way is a stereographic X3D channel, if you don't know how to do it, look down below. I make speculations. I rarely, if ever, say this is what it is, but I will speculate about it, but I like to leave the final determination in your own corner. So that said, let's embark on another episode of speculation, outrageous and otherwise, and hopefully some fairly clear stereographic 3D images that will help you make up your own mind. Let's go. Thomas Smosny has a big and very active group on Facebook called What's on Mars. There's a link down below so you can check it out. This is one of those rare cases where the item of interest is relatively close to the rover. If you're new to anomaly hunting, this probably doesn't look all that strange to you, so let me highlight it just to clear things up a bit. We're going to break this down into the more interesting parts. It's like the old riddle, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you all know the answer. One bite at a time, Jackson. One bite at a time. By the way, I like mine medium rare with garlic butter. Does this look natural to you? It's perfectly okay if it does, but riddle me this, Batman. Those evenly spaced rivets or bolts on the front, how did those happen? That perfect rectangular plate on the right side, the wind did that, right? That inversely radiused scoop just below the plate, isn't it interesting how wind and sand do something like that when it takes skill with a milling machine to pull that off in a well-equipped machine shop? Let's move on. And this one is a dandy, nicely squared end, a triangular depression on top with a small bent rod coming out of it, complete with a handy little knob on the end. Just a fluke, you say? Take a look at this. Granted, it's a lot larger, but you do see the similarities, don't you? And look at the circular tangle of tubes with pieces of, what might be broken casing bent up around the edge. And behind that, a block with more tubes and 3 right-angled openings on the bottom edge. At the top, on the left, another cube extends. In fact, it rather looks like one half of a tenon joint, doesn't it? Kind of like this. Yeah, I know. The 3D is kind of wonky on this one. It was a very early find, and I decided to leave it as it was so that hopefully you can maybe better appreciate where I am nowadays on the learning curve. Anyway, things aren't always blatantly obvious at the get-go. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea to drill down into the details, but that's almost always where you find the truth. Here's something that Terry Burnett came up with just recently, what appears to be the number 5 carved in bas-relief. You can see it pretty well inside the target area, even in this context view. This is about as close as we can get before this low-res image turns into garbage. I'm going to flash it a couple of times in case you're having trouble seeing it. If it's just erosion, it's kind of interesting that we seem to find S's and 5s all over the place on Mars. Here's one I came across at the beginning of last year. I found this on the side of a steep hill in Neville Thompson's Gigapan of Spirit, Sol 620. Just erosion? Could be. But then you have that nice, clean rectangle, almost like a door, complete with a doorknob, center right. I'm going to call both of these not natural. In this Gigapan by Neville Thompson, you can see that this is basically a debris field, a backwash of sand, pebbles, and small rocks deposited by a sizable wave. This is a lot easier to understand if you click on the link down in the description and see the entire image for yourself, since I had to crop it down to make the two items I ran across large enough to be visible. This is, by the way, a screen capture directly off of Nev's Gigamacro. As we move in, you can see that whatever this is has distinctly non-fractal properties. The even thickness, the polygonal shape, what might be a handle coming out in front of a rectangular window or opening, and of course an even line of rivets or bumps across the top. Let's get in a bit closer. So you tell me, what have we got here? It's small, probably no more than 8 to 10 inches long, and while I've heard it described as a coffin or even as a high-tech mousetrap, it's clearly not natural if you take all of its non-fractal properties into account. But take a look at this other piece I ran across, not more than 20 feet away. Does this belong with the other one, or is it just some interesting erosion on a sedimentary rock? Let me alternate between the two for a moment so you can compare them. And you be the judge on this one. And as long as we're on coffins, here's one I found several years ago that I called Spock's Coffin. You can see that lozenge-shaped item poking out of the cave's mouth, and here's what's crazy, or maybe not so crazy. This shot is from Oppie's pan cam of Sol 3894, and when I went back to see if I could clear it up better and maybe do some better 3D on it, the image was available, but so low resolution that you couldn't see anything at all. It does make you wonder. So I'm not sure what to make of it at this point. Whether that's a coffin or something else, I just don't know. And look at those pipes to the left of it, and that serrated edge of the cave just to the left of the pipes. None of it makes any sense to me, except, for sure, these are not natural. It's always kind of creepy when you see something just sitting there all alone on a vast, barren plain littered with rubble. Something very big and very, very destructive happened here. Dean Sattler found this one just the other day, and I wanted to share it with you. You can see at a glance that this is no rock. Look at the various shapes on this thing and the overall shape itself. Now this is a grainy, low-res image, even though it's supposed to be from the MastCam. In this next view, I'm going to take it a little bit beyond the pixel breakup point. First off, I'll be the first to agree that this is a grainy piece of crap. But what do you think? Personally, I think it's a chunk of machinery that somehow survived the global blender that everything on Mars was plopped into. This reminded me of a similar case, one I shared with you in an earlier episode. Same situation here. Something big sitting all by itself way out on a plain covered with tiny bits of rubble. What is it? It almost looks like that front wheel is a gigantic gear, doesn't it? I mean, how hard would it be to roll Curiosity over to either one of those strange items and take a good, close, sober look? Well, I have a lot of respect for the overall ingenuity and just plain genius that so many of the rank and file over at NASA exhibit on a regular basis. It's just utterly baffling to me that they seem to have no interest whatsoever in clearing up giant question marks like these two items. Well, that's it for another episode, and I'd like to talk about you for just a moment. It takes a special person, someone who's interested in these types of anomalies, things that are outside of the normal day-to-day experience. And then of those people, it takes another kind of special person who will take the time to learn X3D and view these surprising anomalies in stereographic 3D. Thank you, and I mean that, for joining me. It's real easy to feel weird and all alone in the world, and especially in this genre, but here you are. God bless you all, and thank you so much. Give it a like if you feel like it. And meanwhile, this is your buddy Dave, over Mars X3D. Be well.